20 months for the most Pogo streamer on Twitch. Azan Pogo, Big Juicer, Pogo.
The academic exoticist approach to indigenous communities is kind of a murky area. Lots of indigenous works talks about this phenomenon. I looked into it, seeing if they were. I looked into it, seeing that if there was like a negative, a negative take on him, specifically in regards to like whether he was doing cultural appreciation or cultural appropriation, and it seems like the native communities have embraced him and have appreciated his interest. Anna versus Jimmy drama ongoing. Yeah, we'll talk about all that stuff, the Jimmy Dore stuff. I don't know what the fuck he's doing. He's like wilding out, making himself look like kind of a clown. But if he was this obsessed with Japan, he'd be called a weeb, but this is okay. How? I mean, if you're a weeb and then you fucking move to Japan, if you're a weeb because you grew up in Japan, for example, because he grew up in Montana, I think like he had a like close proximity to tribes there as well. So that's what guides his perspective. Finally, the most important climate pick is yet to come, and the movement cannot sleep on it. Looking forward to Biden's pick for the OIRA administrator. Will have final say in enacting environmental regulation. Biden's team's foregrounded experience and listen to advocates to a greater degree than other areas, being loud and coordinated work. Imagine that. Yeah, like you're gonna see people who are very good and very considerate on this sort of stuff, like David Dayen is, agree with what I'm saying here, because Deb Haaland, from what I understand, was a very solid pick. That like I said, the activists were advocating for. It's not the same at all. Japan is a nation state with a strong ethnographic standing and stature. Native people are completely deplatformed and marginalized. Okay. I watch your stream every day, but I invested in Tesla and have made a ton of money this year. Sorry to let you down. I don't give a shit, dude. Bro, what the fuck are you talking about? Look, man. Look. It's a cutthroat fucking world out there, okay? I'm never going to be the person who tells you to like suffer. And I'm never going to be the type of person who's like, you have to suffer if you're a leftist. I find that shit really silly. I think it's like baby's first leftism people do that because they get caught up in like the moralization of leftist ideology, and maybe they get too caught up with the aesthetics of leftist ideology. That's why they've like fancy themselves to be revolutionaries, akin to like the Zapatistas or some shit, you know, like and they grow out of it, and you will grow out of it too if you have a POV like that. It's just there is no reason for you not to be successful in our current system, as long as you are doing your best and as long as you are advocating and working to make society better for your immediate vicinity, and also pushing for systemic change as best as you can. I find that really stupid, and it's a really idiotic take that usually was just exclusive to like Sargon of Akkad and people that we belittle as stupid people, but now unfortunately neoliberals have taken that mantle and taken that charge on, as well as there's more leftist progress happening, and it's like a big centrist Democrat talking point as well, unfortunately. Because remember, the people that launch that criticism against you, the people that launch criticism like that against you are not doing it in good faith. More often than not, they're doing it in a way that it's just like either motivated by personal jealousy or either motivated by a lack of understanding. It's silly. It's silly bitch shit. Marxist-Leninists on hate watch? Okay, bro. Like, I mean, Engels owned a fucking factory, okay? Suck my dick, Marxist-Leninist, if they have that kind of stupid fucking approach. Like, from a wealthy, well-off background. Like, you need to have allegiances. You need to have class. You need to have class traders within the wealthy ranks as well. It's so stupid. Yeah. It's also pretty embarrassing that people come in here and fucking criticize me, and yet I guess I am better in the meritocratic capitalist system that they've created. Oftentimes, the hilarity of people's criticisms of me, especially from the center or to my right at least, is always, well, you're doing really well under capitalism, and I don't like that. And you must have cheated your way to that point. And it's like, okay, but isn't that still like literally a criticism of the system itself, that it is not as honest as you thought it was, and it is not as good as you thought it was, that meritocracy is a lie, that a fucking dumb himbo like myself can get to the point that I could get to? I'm winning in the marketplace of ideas. Doesn't that kind of make you upset about the system itself? The system that you are uncritically here to advocate for? Anyway. Doesn't that kind of dissonate your cognition? Aren't you too smart to be a himbo? Who knows? Are PhDs class traders, or are we shat on enough to be pro? What PhD is a fucking class trader? Unless you're like a PhD in like oil extraction or some other like comparable industry. What fucking PhD is making that kind of money, dude? Anyway, I forgot to run the ad. Top of the hour, every hour, 6-second ad break. Right now, if you'd like to avoid the ads, all you need to do is subscribe. Here it is.
4 months sad time. Pogo. Hassle.
It's pronounced Holland. Also, her dad's from Norway. Wait, really? Her dad's actually from Norway? No way, dude. Dude, PhDs are fucking dirt poor. How much money you make does not change your class position, by the way. That is not even remotely a part of like orthodox Marxist understandings, or even like it's not a part of Marxist orthodoxy. It's not a part of like Marxist economics. Like it's a total fabrication. It's a completely fucking made up concept to be like, oh, once you make a certain amount of money, you are no longer a fucking worker. It just is entirely different on how you make your money. Are you making money off of capital, or are you making money off of pre-existing capital that you own with your private property? Are you making money in a more parasitic capacity, or are you a fucking worker who is working for another person? You can still, like, the funniest part about it. The funniest part about this argument is always like shitting on, for example, I saw this happening in the UK. I heard about this happening in the UK. Apparently, like, what are they? Like, there's drivers in the UK that, so train driver salaries, I think it's maybe train driver salaries or tube drivers, basically, there was a meme about how they were making like $55,000 pounds a year plus benefits, and they went on strike, and other workers were like frustrated with them, and they were saying like, how dare you go on fucking strike? You make $55K, which is of course a lot higher than the average salary in the UK, right? And part of the reason why these motherfuckers make so much money is because they have good unions. Like, is because they do strikes and stuff. And what I find to be hilarious about that is, like, you're literally shitting on unionized workers for exercising their like power that these unions have afforded them in collective bargaining, because you yourself do not have that power, and it is a capitalist wet dream. Do you understand? Like, It is a capital's wet dream for bosses to sit back and watch workers fight amongst themselves because some workers are making more money than others because of their own fucking unions. Like, it is excellent, dude. It's excellent. Just they're sitting back and they're like, yes, keep fighting, plebs. Very good, peasants. Fight amongst thyselves. Average tradesman salary in Australia is 90,000 because of unions. Like, tube drivers are also stuck in a dark tunnel all alone, and their shift is not a comfy job either, but London would come to a stop without them. Exactly.
Love to watch you scream at conservatives. Makes me comfy. Reminds me of my grandma.
So, you know, UK bruv living in the US, the lack of unions here was really weird to get used to. Yeah.
Hassle.
Crabs in a barrel. Okay.
4 months already. Wow.
So
hassle.
let's watch this.
I don't look like most people in Congress. My life is different too. I pushed through college and law school as a single mom, and I'm 30 years sober. But struggle made me fierce. My work is to fight for all of us. Clean energy jobs, Medicare for all, no more corporate money in politics. Trump won't hand us a thing if we ask.
Do you see why I fucking am excited about this pick?
Politely.
I'm Deb Holland, and I approve this message because the old way isn't working.
We must be fierce.
Are you ready?
Wait, I want to know where she's. Are you sure her father is from Norway? He's a Warren supporter, though. I don't care, man. What does that mean? Like, dude, what is this like weird team sports mentality? Oh, she's a Warren supporter? Fuck her then, dude. So is Katie Porter, and I love her too. Like, who gives a shit? Dude, listen, man. I like people who are like, I even like Elizabeth Warren with the exception of her disastrous campaigning. It's so fucking, it's so dumb. Wait, what policies does she support? I didn't find anything from that. Well, one, clean energy initiative, so Green New Deal, Medicare for all, and also getting corporate money out of politics. Those are three main fucking... This is a 30-second ad, and in that 30-second ad, you literally saw three key policy positions that she's on board with. Getting money out of politics, okay? Clean energy initiatives in the form of Green New Deal, and also Medicare for all. What is that? How does that not, like... Do you expect a 30-second ad to literally be like, well, first of all, we're going to get into incremental expansion of Medicare by lowering the age of Medicare to 55 first, and then lowering it in the next 10 years into 45, and inevitably lowering it back down to 35, slowly but surely lowering the age of Medicare until it's expanded all the way down to 0 ages. Like, is that, you think that would be a good fucking 30-second one? 30-second ad? I'm a fan of Elizabeth Warren too. I also love when she called Bernie a sexist. Yeah, well, you are a simpleton fool, so that makes sense. That tracks with your name. Anyway.
Yibby, call me Steve-O.
Like, what are we doing? We're just like, I'm not gonna fucking shit on. I mean, look, I think Warrenites are delusional, and a lot of Warrenites are unironically neoliberals themselves, who liked Elizabeth Warren because you know,
Haven't
she
been
was a
here long, but
lady
I've been
and a
loving the
little bit
stream.
more
Keep
on
it
the
up,
side
buddy.
of progress than others. She wasn't a little bit on the side of progress. She was heavily invested in progressive causes when she was running. But that's why so many of them found themselves very
2 months
quickly.
of being radical as
A
hell.
lot of Warrenites went back to, you know, their leftist ways. And then some Warrenites literally turned around and became, what? Simpleton Fool, great counter. You sure got me, bud. Okay. Like, cool. My man said, I loved it when Elizabeth Warren said Bernie Sanders was a sexist and thinks I'm gonna like give that like a decent response. Like, what? How do I respond to some idiotic thing that you just said?
When I saw the media acting like, oh yeah, ha, 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 it's over. Oh, Cenk, you're just being conspiratorial. No, Donald Trump believes in America. No, he's not going to go that far. No, I know and you don't, and I was right and they were wrong. So
which media?
Rubber Ducky 44. Thank you for the 10 tier 1 gift subs. I'm not well versed in theory, so the question was a bit of a joke. I appreciate the explanation. It also seems a bit tricky to place professors, for instance, in the owners, producers of capital structure, although I suppose research is production capital for universities. What? No, dude, professors are not fucking, dude. Like, PhDs don't even fit that fucking argument of like, you know, you make a lot of money, so therefore you are, even in the incorrect interpretation of what constitutes a worker versus a boss or an owner, PhDs don't fit that fucking narrowly defined category. That is completely incorrect because they make no money. Like, what are you talking about? PhDs are poor as fuck, bitch. Like, they are not only workers, but they are some of the worst, most underpaid, worst treated workers in the entire fucking vertical. It is psychotic to assume that like PhDs would be fucking you know, bourgeois or whatever. It is like PhDs are part of like bourgeois decadence. You are just an anti-intellectual dipshit if you have that sort of take. Are colleges neoliberal institutions? Absolutely. Okay, colleges do churn out a specific ideology, and that ideology is liberal capitalism. It is inherently reactionary when it comes to its economics, when it comes to neoclassical economics. But PhDs overall, with the exception of like STEM and shit, but even then it doesn't matter. Even if you're a PhD in STEM and you make a lot of money, like, okay, so what? You're still fucking working for someone else. But a lot of PhDs, especially like ones that are like adjunct professors and shit, or like people who are trying to get a PhD, is just like, they're nothing. Like, they are underpaid. They have no fucking unionization. They get shit on. They literally work like slaves. They work as like little research slaves. I think the problem is that a lot of so-called leftists, even Chapa hosts, frequently disparage PMCs because their stereotype is petit bourgeois libs. And at the same time, they turn around and constantly defend the horrific beliefs of working class Trump supporters, but that's a separate issue. This notion that Trump supporters are you know, very poor. Well, there's a lot of very poor Trump supporters, but this notion that like Trump supporters are the real working class is a silly one. It is a silly one. If you look at the numbers, you will recognize that especially below 100K, Democrats have more voters. A majority, nearly 60% of voters under 100K are Democratic voters versus 40% of people making less than 100K are Republican voters. But that still means millions of people are poor and, you know, voting for the Republican Party. So there are clearly a fuckload of working class Republicans, but to say that like Republicans are the real working class party is dumb as fuck, unless you think like the working class is white exclusively, and those white people only care about being racist or something. Anyway.
Okay, you
Which
think
media?
the media that
Cenk,
is now.
I watch the media all day. Literally,
Okay, Anna.
the moment I wake up, 5 in the morning, I'm up. and I'm watching the
What is
news
going on?
nonstop until I'm on air for this show. So I want to know who you're talking about because clearly I'm missing it.
Thanks
All I
for
hear
making these last few
24/7
months a little
is
less
like
miserable.
anti-Trump stuff, fear-mongering about Trump, okay? Like just the opposite of what you're referring to. So maybe I'm just not seeing what you're seeing. That's why I'm asking you which media.
When I saw the media acting like, oh yeah, ha, 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 it's over. Oh, Cenk, you're just being conspiratorial. No, Donald.
Wait, goddamn. I don't know what the fuck's going on over there, but damn, it seems like Anna is fucking fed up. That's a little scary. I don't like that. One of my physics professors in college talked about how he got paid less than a high school teacher and still worked like 80 hours a week before 10 years. So even in STEM, it's horrible. Don't let all these STEM lords and Lee's mislead chat. Yeah. Cenk is reading chat. She eats them up like every once in a while. I mean, Anna is closer to
3
my
months of
politics
being
than
a
Cenk
retired
is.
pog.
It's not a secret. So, do you listen to Anna's Jacobin podcast? I do not.
Love you, Hassan, and also we love to see Anna speak her truth.
The reality is, like, if you look at what is around you, if you look at the world around you, and you do not recognize that our current economic organization is profoundly important in describing the real reason why people are suffering, then you're going to come across as a little bit delusional, if we're being real. And Casper is a clown for going to the Murdoch Security Conference and giving softball questions to murderers Madeleine Albright and other imperialist neocons. She's a lib. I have no idea what this is.
Humble brag.
What the fuck? She went to a Murdoch Security Conference and had softball questions to Madeleine Albright? One of your mods is an actual STEM worker. You could ask him. No. What is Cenk's politics compared to yours? I mean, listen, to everybody who like fucking loves shitting on Anna or loves shitting on Cenk, especially if you're in my community, you need to stop it. Okay? Without these people,
4 months strong.
90% of like the extremely online progressives would not even be where they're at. They are the gateway drug and have been around for a very long time. It's like these people literally, they especially like Anna and Cenk for a very long time, for like 20 fucking years almost, have been advocating
Free
for
hassle.
progressive causes, advocating for Bernie Sanders before Bernie Sanders like hit that peak fucking hit his like maximum name recognition. Like they've been covering politics and criticizing the Democratic Party for 20 fucking years almost. So the people who turn around and say like Cenk is a fucking lib, he's a neo-lib, he's in the pocket of like, you know, big liberal, you know, he's a Hillary supporter, like this stuff is psychotic, okay? It's psychotic. They have also done more in political advocacy and political action than any number of leftist commentators could fucking dream of. I mean, the greatest example of this is the Justice Democrats. Kyle Kalinske and Cenk created the Justice Democrats. There are tweets, if you recall, there's like an old ass tweet from, well, not even an old ass tweet, but like from 2016, I think, or 2017, where AOC is like literally sending a tweet to Cenk saying like, I am the bartender you talked about that could not get that could not vote in New York. And while Cenk is, bro, I was raised by Cenk. I'm 36. He's my uncle and all this. I remember the Jill Pike days. Yeah. So, but their positions have changed. Jimmy Dore left. Kyle left. Just Dems. It doesn't matter. First of all, Jimmy Dore's departure is nothing. It's nothing. But like, Cenk has been in the trenches for a very long time and has been doing this advocacy for a very long time. Here, look. Hi, Cenk. I'm Alexandria, the voter you mentioned in your New York voting piece tonight. Let me know if you can talk. This is before she ran. And they connected. And the Justice Democrats, like, pushed for her to run alongside other organizations as well, like the New York DSA. So that's like you always have to take that into consideration whenever you fucking shit on people like Jank. They've unironically done more than you ever could. For the progressive cause, for the progressive movement. Like, yeah, he was on MSNBC. He took over Dylan Radigan's spot on MSNBC. And at the time, because he was friends with Dylan, at the time, he was the only person on mainstream media that was like fucking drone striking Obama from MSNBC. And the ratings showed he was fucking killing it. They literally relegated him to they told him like, no, you can't do that. You can't criticize Obama. We are the left leaning broadcaster. You cannot shit on Obama. Let's see if I can find like some videos, some of those old videos, dude. Here.
Active is independent Senator.
This is, by the way, this is Senator Bernie Sanders' YouTube account. Okay? This is Jank on MSNBC, who had Bernie Sanders on the show back in like fucking before 2011.
Is independent Senator from Vermont, Bernie Sanders. He's a member of the Progressive Caucus and about as progressive as it gets. So let me start really simple. What did you think of the speech?
I thought the president said a lot of the right things. I think the devil is going to be in the details. And also the question is whether the president is going to fight for what he believes, or is this just rhetoric? Cenk, what we saw in terms of the tax deal, you remember back in December, the president really basically caved in and gave the Republicans almost everything they wanted. In terms of the continuing resolution, the 2011 budget, which I'm going to vote against tomorrow, there were massive cuts in programs for health care, for education, for infrastructure, keeping people warm. I think a very bad agreement. Now, what the president is saying is that he is drawing a line in the sand. And I hope very much that the president is going to say to the Republicans that if you refuse to raise the debt limit, if you are about to destroy or bring chaos to the international financial community, leading perhaps to a major depression. If you guys are prepared to do it, take responsibility. But we're not going to cave in again. We're not going to be blackmailed again. You are not going to dismember the government and cut back on programs that tens and tens of millions of Americans absolutely depend upon, while, as the president said, you give $1 trillion in tax breaks to the richest people in this country who in many ways have never had it so good. So the president's rhetoric was strong, weak on the details. But the $64 question is the president going to really fight? Is he going to rally the American people and say, no, we're not going to bring hardship to the people without money while we give tax breaks to the very rich? That's the issue that remains to be seen.
Well, these were the deficit conversations of the grand bargain, by the way. This is circa 2012. Like at the end of his term, he was like, they were already looking at like deficit convos. And the only reason why we did not short circuit fucking our entire Social Security processes was, one, because of the diligent advocacy of people like Bernie Sanders, the Progressive Caucus, and like progressive organizers, but also because Republicans literally were like, no, we can't even look like we are in agreement with Obama, even if Obama is trying to cut Social Security. Jank and Anna boned? No, that's disgusting, dude. These people are such fucking pieces of shit. That is so disgusting. Anna is family, dude. It's so nasty that people say idiotic shit like that. Some of the more common, like, there's a lot of boomer Nazis that watch the Young Turks, okay? Like old school, Sargon of Akkad fanboys and like literal fucking Nazis that have been obsessively hate watching the Young Turks for 2 decades now. And there's like all these metas about how like, Jank fucks this and that. Like, it's disgusting. And then also on top of that, there's like one of the ones that like at least pertains to me is like, Hassan is always smoking weed. Like, they always used to say like, I'm high. I'm a dumb idiot who doesn't know what he's talking about. and also I'm high as fuck all the time on broadcast. They would always say like, he's so high, he's so fucking high. And it's so weird. Like, you guys know, because I'm live all the time and you listen to me every day. You know I don't fucking smoke weed. And I find that really strange. They would always be like, he's drunk and high. They would like make that up all the time. Like, it was such a weird made up thing.
Senator Sanders, it is apparent to me that you are concerned, right? And towards the end of the speech, the president did say, I might not get what I want. So that, of course, opens the door for negotiations. Now, obviously, they have to have negotiations. I guess my question to you is, are you happy with where the negotiations appear to begin? Because the president kept referring to that deficit commission that he put together. What's your thoughts on that?
No, I think you make a very good point, Cenk, and I'm not. What often happens is we start off somewhere in the middle or to the right of center, then the Republicans go into the extreme right, and we end up with a settlement that is very far to the right. I think the president should have been very clear in terms of Social Security, for example, in saying, excuse me, Social Security has not contributed one nickel to the deficit. It can pay out every benefit owed to every eligible American for 26 years. Has a $2.6 trillion surplus. It is not on the table. We're not going to discuss it now. That's for another day. In terms of Medicare, I think that clearly there are financial problems. There are ways that by getting rid of bureaucracy within the Medicare system, we can save substantial sums of money without doing the kinds of damage that the Republicans want to do. So again, Cenk, the devil will be in the detail, but I am not a great fan of that Simpson-Bowles Deficit Reduction Commission. I think that's a bad place to start from.
Right. You know, one of my concerns with that commission is, among other things, they said Social Security retirement age would be raised to 69. If that's the model we're using, you're not happy with that solution at all,
and
right?
They were going to also, in addition to that, cut benefits for many, many workers. It is not a good place to start from. And also, most importantly, we have to separate the whole issue.
What? You've discussed Schultz Saves America. There's 4 episodes, and they're all about 15 minutes, perfect bite size for reacts. No, I have not seen it. I don't know what it is.
Of how we deal with the deficit, which is very important, from Social Security, and how we make sure that remains strong for 75 years. These are separate issues because Social Security is paid for by the payroll tax, has a huge surplus right now, hasn't contributed one nickel to the deficit, and it is only Republican ideology and propaganda which is trying to bring these two issues together.
All right, Senator Sanders, honestly, I didn't know where you were going to come out on this, and I sense concern from you. That's what I sense. Okay, we'll see how it plays out, obviously. Thank you for joining us tonight. Really appreciate it.
Good to be with you.
Zizek was on Bad Faith Podcast and Chapo when we have him on. Maybe. I didn't know they were family. Sorry, dude. I really didn't know. What? Sam Cedar, Anna Kasparian, Cenk Uygur, Janine Garofalo are the early titans of the left. They did so much around Occupy era when I was growing up. Yeah. At a time when Amy Goodman too, Democracy Now, like at a time when most outlets were just like in the throes of like the Obama era blue goggles that they had on, looking at everything with like rose tinted glasses. Cenk was fucking shitting on Obama. He was criticizing Obama from the left over and over again. Same as, were you at Occupy? No, I was in Turkey, dude. I was occupying Ankara. What the fuck you mean, were you at Occupy? But same, oh, hold on. We got to do this again. Hold on. We'll watch this too.
For the Young Turks, brought to you by Audible.com. Get a free audiobook at...
This is another one.
An initiative to freeze the pay of almost...
Here, this is another, like, this is another MSNBC take from Cenk.
All federal employees. Now, I don't necessarily disagree with the proposal, but I want to tell you why it's terrible politics. I've said in the past that I'd love to play poker with Democratic leadership, whether it's Harry Reid or President Obama. They love to fold. Even if they had 4 kings, you could convince them that the Republicans were holding 4 aces. For example, they have these huge advantages in the polls on 2 issues: people wanting to protect Social Security and preferring to raise taxes on the wealthy to balance the budget. But Republicans yell boo on raising taxes for anybody and on the need to cut Social Security to balance the budget, And lo and behold, Democrats are working on a compromise that lets the rich keep their huge Bush tax cuts, and Obama's deficit commission is talking about cutting Social Security.
They did that, by the way. The Social Security conversation was eliminated. The Social Security conversation didn't go forward because, again, Republicans did not want to even look like they were compromising. But Democrats offered them, regardless. Joe Biden personally sidestepped Harry Reid and literally gave tax cuts, or made the tax cuts for the wealthy that George W. Bush had given permanent. Remember that. Like, so he was right back then to criticize that, and it did happen.
There's never been a Republican bluff that these guys didn't fold to. They're called an easy mark, or in poker parlance, the suckers at the table. But today, I'd like to add a chess analogy, because that's fun. Here's what Obama thinks is brilliant political strategy. Give the other guy your queen at the start of the match in the hopes that he'll like you more. Here, offshore oil drilling was the perfect example. He did a preemptive strike against his own side and agreed to GOP proposal on drilling. I said at the time that that was a terrible idea because that's the final compromise that he should have agreed to at the end of the negotiations after he also got what he wanted. At the time, some Obama loyalists said I couldn't possibly understand his political genius. You know what happened next? The BP oil spill. And then instead of the GOP looking foolish for pushing for more oil drilling, Obama did. Brilliant. Well played. Now we have the same exact thing going on with the federal payroll freeze. That might be a fine point to compromise on eventually. But if you...
Is it a surprise that MSNBC was like, no, you can't do this. Not on our watch.
Give away the queen before the negotiations begin, then they have no incentive to give you what you want. This isn't that hard, is it? And Communications Director Dan Pfeiffer seemed to suggest to Huffington Post that this was smart because the Republicans couldn't object, since it was their idea that the White House was wholesale adopting. Now, can you imagine any Republican bragging that they completely came to a Democratic proposal? Inconceivable. And besides which, he's wrong. The minute they agree to a 2-year freeze, the Republicans will ask for a 5-year freeze or a 10-year freeze. Why not? I would. If they gave me the queen, why not ask for the bishop and the knight too? Whether it's chess or poker, the game gets a lot easier if you're playing against the suckers at the table. And
so, yeah, I mean, I'm not gonna go over like how he left the Young Turks, or I mean, sorry, how he was pushed out of MSNBC. I already gave you the brief analysis of it, but like, what is deeply frustrating is like people who look at what Cenk has done, or people who look at like clips of Cenk now, and he is a liberal. Cenk has always been a liberal. He's always been a very progressive, but still a liberal social democrat. Like, he is the perfect example of like someone who can be at straight up the final endpoint of the capitalist ideology. He has always been a social democrat. He's always advocated for social democracy. I find no, I don't have the same political opinions just like you. No, I'm not no. The main difference between Cenk and I is that I don't believe that the capitalist organization of the economy is fixable, and that Cenk does not equate the issues as he is a capitalist social democrat. Cenk does not equate the problems that we experience with the boom bust cycle or all this other stuff that we watch to the regular order of business under capitalism. He believes that it is basically a consequence of people cheating and people being corrupt, and that if there are enough pressures, like he does the crony capitalism argument unironically, where he's like, it's corporate capitalism, it's crony capitalism. I don't think that there is a distinction between crony capitalism and capitalism. I think it's just all capitalism. So I find it ridiculous that so many people are like, oh yeah, fuck you, dude, fuck you, like you're so fucking dumb, you're an imperialist warmonger or whatever the fuck, when when most of the people that shit on him, probably without realizing, are shitting on him either because they saw like something in the New York Times that destroyed his reputation, or they saw something like Nazis were agitating for. Okay?
Love you, you himbo hassle.
So it's just dumb. It's bad. It's bad tactics to just like shit on someone like Cenk. The Sam Harris interview didn't make him look very good. Yeah, that's only because you probably haven't been able to shed yourself of your horny for Islamophobia point of view from the Sam Harris days. Even if you outgrew Sam Harris, you probably still have some of those underlying biases that come back. And I'm sure your follow-up to this will be like, Islamophobia? What do you mean? It's normal to be critical of Muslims. I'm just being anti-religious. You know, it's hard. It's very difficult. And it's not a testament to Sam Harris's success as a rhetorician or anything, but it's more so just the underlying reasoning for why Islamophobia is so pervasive in American society. You have to justify our endless imperial endeavors somehow, and you got to do that with American exceptionalism and Islamophobia. That is the underlying reasoning for why so many Americans have to be are on board with the invasion of Iraq and Afghanistan. Even if they're not as critical as they were supposed to be. Or like, we don't have an anti-war movement anymore. Like, there used to be a robust anti-war movement in America. We have a long history of leftist activism that revolves around anti-war movements, like movements for peace. These guys are fucking radicals, right? And we don't have that anymore. And the reason why we don't have that anymore is because of how successful Islamophobia was. Like, tying it to white supremacist biases, or coding it in the same like white supremacist language was very effective. Vilifying Muslims as like scary brown people that just wanted to destroy America was very good. It was a very successful method. So most people that saw Cenk talk to Sam Harris saw them both as progressives, when the difference was one was a center-right moderate liberal, and the other was a left-leaning progressive social democrat. And the conversation that they were having revolved around treatment of Muslims, even though Cenk is like way more of a fucking r/atheist dude when it comes to Islam than I am even. Sounds like a conflict of interest when you always protect Muslims. Yeah, I also protect Christians as well. I also protect Jews as well. I protect people who believe in faith and don't use that to shit on others, because I think that is liberty. Like, the liberty to be free to, believe in whatever the fuck you want to believe in is something that I personally think is important. The only reason why you consistently, and this is a thing that happens routinely in my community as well, the reason why so many people think that I have like an underlying bias towards Muslims is because you are like, oh, this dude is from a Muslim background, so of course he's being biased. Anyway. Do you think religious institutions should be taxed? Abso-fucking-lutely. Are you kidding me? Most of these like anti-religion people, most of the r/atheist anti-religion people sound very comfortable spaces on the internet as long as they routinely shat on Islam. I actually like your Muslim perspective because I never grew up with it. Grew up Protestant. Yeah. So it was very easy. It was very easy for them to just like get into that field. That's why you saw so many skeptics in the skeptic community. So many of them went from hating on George W. Bush for like preventing stem cell research, for example. That was like a big deal. I still remember it in my childhood that like George W. Bush and his homophobia, anti-gay marriage stance, and also his like advocacy against stem cell research and the GOP's advocacy against stem cell research created so many skeptics in the community that were anti-GOP, anti-conservative, aggressively fucking anti-George W. Bush, and aggressively anti-religion. Those atheists under Obama started slowly but surely finding themselves to be more and more Islamophobic. At the time, the war was regarded, because it was being done by a Republican who was a religious fucking zealot and a freak in the eyes of those skeptics. At the time, the war was bad. But when the war and the warmongering was done by a relatively progressive sounding, charismatic black liberal, then that war was good. So then that war was justifiable. And you know, they forgot about it. Like they basically forgot about the anti-war advocacy, and then they turned around and fucking even started shitting on Obama. Actually, maybe that's not even true. Like most of the liberals stopped fucking criticizing the war in a similar capacity because it was being handled by a liberal administration. So it was a necessary evil. That's what it was seen like. And beyond that, a lot of the people that like hated religion started hating Obama because they thought that Obama was kowtowing to the Islamic world too much, and those guys were all terrorists. That's a pretty broad generalization about atheists, don't you think? Yes, that's why I always say r/atheism and the skeptic community on the internet. And the reality is, like, so many of them, and some of them have reformed since then. Some of their opinions are no longer as edgy. Some of their opinions are no longer as silly, rather. I mean, you have, what's one of those dudes? With the exception of Kyle Kalinske, there weren't that many fucking r/atheist dipshits that turned skeptic, that turned fucking, Islamophobic, and even found themselves at the precipice of like a right-wing reactionary nonsense. Like Kyle Kalinske was always pretty decent in his point of view, but Shuon Head, I think, is like recently a reformed centrist person. Who else is out there? Was Kyle that bad? No. Kyle was one of the very few people that absolutely stuck to his guns on like shitting on the Obama administration, and like he's just a free speech absolutist, and he says like edgy shit, but who gives a fuck? I don't care. It just depend on I care more about your advocacy.
3 months, says Pog.
I don't really follow a lot of these guys, like Dillahunty, the Amazing Atheist. Like, I don't really know where I don't know where they're at or where they've been. I don't really care. So I'm not really familiar with that community that much. Like Chris Reagan, like I know some of these people. Like I recognize their names, but I'm unfamiliar with their output. I never like kept up with them or really cared for what they had to say for that matter. But Sargon of Akkad is one of those people who's like a fucking Nazi now. Like he literally went from like skeptic to Nazi. Chris Reagan, to be honest, he never seemed to fit in with the Sargon types. I don't really know all those like all those people, but hold on. Hungry Gate, yeah. Who else? There's There's one that I'm thinking of that like reformed before a lot of other people. He was like a chud who did a really good video on Jordan Peterson. Like a really, really good video. No, not Crowd. Crowd is, I think that dude is like still fucking deeply Islamophobic, I believe. Not, is it Thunderfoot? No, I don't know who that is. Not Armored Skeptic or anything like that. No. He's not that big. But he did have a really good Jordan Peterson video. Dusty, yes, Cult of Dusty. Thank you. Like I remember watching his Jordan Peterson video, and I remember like kind of seeing his transition. And I remember that like he went from he was like a big YouTube atheist. It was like an edgy boy, and then. And he is no longer like that. Cool how anyone who criticizes a religion is Islamophobia, lol. Yeah. The problem is, again, Kyle has always been critical of religion. Cenk has been extremely critical of religion. And yet you don't see me criticizing them as Islamophobes. And the reason why you don't see me claiming that they were Islamophobic is because they're not. Their criticism of religion revolve around revolve around criticizing people who weaponize religious doctrine and exploit it for their own material gains, whereas a lot of the other people who before their Reformation were actually fucking just exclusively horrifically fucking Islamophobic and couching their non-stop attacks on Muslims and the Muslim world in general with I'm just simply criticizing Islam. Come on. Yeah, bro, Muslims are inherently inbred, bro. I'm just criticizing Islam, dude. Please, bro, let me criticize Islam, bro. You know any good Christian political commentators? Elizabeth Brunig is pretty good, even though she does have some takes on, I think, or had some takes in the past that like some trans people will get upset at, and understandably get upset at. But I think she's great. She writes for the New York Times and is married to Matt Brunig, who is also great. Is awesome. Donald Hughes is another ecumenical Marxist. He is great too. Why is shitting on Obama good though? Seems to be like a great strategy to lose elections if you don't have a unified base. How do you have your nose in so many communities? Is it hard remembering all these people, their beliefs and practices? Because it's been my life for the past 10 years. Like what you probably saw or what you were probably consuming as like content, I was literally living through at the time. From working at the Young Turks or making videos of my own and that sort of thing. Seth Abramson? No, that dude is a fucking psycho. Please don't do this. No, that dude is like a crazy Russiagate dude, man. Stop. That dude is like the classic, like, Bill Barr is gonna get executed now in a military tribunal. Like Steve Bannon is gonna get executed. And because of his crimes against Russia, like, or his crimes involving, like, working with Russia or shit. Man, atheists trash Christians a ton, especially the evangelical movement. Also, atheists on average are way more progressive than religious people in the U.S. Also, average viewer atheists is equal to Muslims. Wait, what? Dude. I don't know why you bring up this stuff, okay? When I am simply talking about the most common and most famous fucking atheist commentators almost in their transition and them also getting back to the fucking real world and centering their worldview around empathy, rather than hatred against a specific community. I don't know why you are talking about atheists in general when my reference is to the anti-theist proselytizers who literally behave like Jehovah's Witnesses in a very aggressive way towards those who are Muslim or those who are even religious in other ways. What about ex-Muslims who are oppressed? Oh, Turkish Muslims. Here we go. Turkish ex-Muslims, bro. By the way, Turkey has its own fucking brand of edgy atheists too. I should know. I was one of them. Just remember, I used to be a fucking... Well, I was in 3rd grade, though. You know, I went through that transition early on in my life. But there's a lot of progressive Turks who are fucking super-duper anti-Islam. For political reasons. What about ex-Muslims who were oppressed by a majority Muslim society for years, like me, not being fond of the overall concept of Islam specifically, or LGBT people who unfortunately live in Middle Eastern countries? Do they not have a legitimate grievance? Of course, I'm talking about being anti-Islam, not anti-Muslim people. My friend, you are Turkish. I am Turkish. Look at how progressive I am. And yet, whenever I talk about Islam or criticize or defend Muslims in general, immediately people say, you are fucking biased. Because of your Muslim background. These people that are Islamophobic do not make a distinction between people like yourself, myself, and fucking imams for that reason. Unless you literally are one of the good ones and you portray yourself as a model minority ex-Muslim and you become a fucking shark who basically is a good token, an Uncle Ahmed. Who shits on all the other Muslims, and that's the only way you are recognized by them as someone who is different. If you become a Muslim Candace Owens, only then will you ever get celebrated and accepted as one of them, like Majid Nawaz or what's that other fucking chick that's like crazy. I am not a religious person. I don't think anyone could ever say that I'm a religious person. I'm not even a spiritual person. It's ridiculous. Like, Ayan Hersey Ali, yeah. Like, do I strike you as the kind of person who is even remotely religious or even spiritual? No. Which, by the way, does not stop people from literally saying, "Oh, dude, you're biased against Muslims," when I shit on so many of those, awful vultures in the Turkish government that bastardize and utilize religion for their own benefit in a similar capacity to how Donald Trump fucking throws up the Bible.
Hold on.
But the distinction is, you don't think that George W. Bush actually invaded Iraq for some fucking Christian reason. Even if you say yes to win the argument as a fucking edgy atheist, you don't legitimately believe that like every single fucking American military member was a part of the Holy Crusades and it was like doing it for religious beliefs, right? Just like, because you can understand, you can make that distinction because you have a materialist fucking worldview, right? Just like I want people to be able to make that distinction on Muslims in the Muslim world and the other reasons for why radicalization occurs in the Muslim world, for example. Anyway. Do you think religion is a net positive for giving people a set of morals, or do you think that it can be used to create hate in the name of a higher power? It's ideology. And just like any other form of ideology, it can be wielded as a weapon for good, or it can be wielded as a weapon for bad. Not to be a view count Andy, but after all the 50K views, as if 20K feel underwhelming? No, I'm very fortunate to be able to talk to an audience like this about whatever the fuck I want to. It's a really incredible opportunity. I think many people forget that, like, it is unheard of to like reach these levels as a leftist commentator. It's nuts. One day we will probably be a 50K community in the same level of stability.